Hello, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have 72 out of 100 members present, which constitutes a quorum. Before I hand it over to your moderator, Seth Morton, I just wanted to give an announcement regarding the upcoming November election. I know it seems like a long ways away, but again, this body is not expected to meet or scheduled to meet at this point until September 5th. So between now and then, there are some important reminders. One, if you are caucused into your seat by your fellow district members at any point since the last election, your term expires in November. If you were on the ballot last November, then you are not on the ballot this November. You serve a 2-year term. And I hope everybody remembers whether or not you were on the ballot last November or not. If not, check with me and I'll help you on that. Okay, so 2, if you would like to run again for the RTM, i.e. you were on the ballot 2 years ago, you must notify me in writing. Email is fine, at least 10 weeks before the election. This is set by the town charter. That is no later than August 29th. So again, August 29th is the date by which I need to have an email from anybody who wishes to appear on the ballot. So you can do it tomorrow, or you can do it on August 28th. If it's after August 29th, you were not automatically on the ballot. Then you must take a petition and circulate it amongst your neighbors in your district and collect 25 signatures, and then you get that to me by September 12th. So bottom line, August 29th, send me an email if your term is up and you want to be on the ballot. If you're not sure your term, let me know. At this point, you also remember you all need to fill out, everyone on the ballot needs to fill out a campaign finance form. That is due back to me also at the same time. Lastly, the number of open seats which will appear on the ballot will be determined 60 days before the election. At this point, we do not know how many open seats will be in each district. That calculation is also set by charter, done 60 days before the election, which is September 7th. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, our next meeting is September 18th. So if there's any questions on anything I've just said, please feel free to reach out to me. This is all also on the town website under the tab, How Do I Run for the RTM? It's all right there, but I'm happy to take questions tonight or anytime. Thanks so much, and now your moderator, Seth Morton.
Welcome, everybody. Happy summer. It's coming. It really is. See more and more kids running around on the streets already, so it's great. Just a couple of announcements. One is that item 2323, that's the last, that's number 11 here on the agenda. That's been withdrawn by the first selectman. It will reappear, I'm sure, in the future, but for now, we're not going to vote on it tonight. Also, given all of the, let's say, work that we're doing tonight on Great Island, I thought it would be great to have an update on the Great Island Committee. So our distinguished representative, Mark Adaletta, will give us a brief update on what's going on there.
Thank you, Seth. Mark Adaletta, District 5. As of this evening, I was provided an update earlier today, as was the moderator. We understand that the Board of Selectmen are conducting 45 interviews related to the 4 open resident positions on the Great Island Advisory Committee. As of right now, from what I understand, they're conducting a few interviews at a time. I'm not really sure how close to the end that they are. I understand there's at least a handful more to be conducted. The intention is to announce the final committee at the Board of Select meeting July 3rd. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Seth.
Thanks, Mark. So without objection, I'll accept the agenda as modified. Next item is approval of the minutes of the May 8 meeting. Are there any comments on that? Yes, Peter.
Thank you, Seth. I just, having reviewed the minutes, and there needs to be a clarification in one of the statements that I made when discussing the topic at hand regarding the budget process. And I believe the minutes, as they currently read, stated that this body should be maximizing the amount of money spent during the budget process. That does not reflect the intent behind what I said. And my point was that we should be maximizing expenditures that are subject to the normal budget process with RTM oversight, rather than expenditures that are funded via the contingency accounts. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. And if you provide that to Krista after the meeting, that'd be great. Are there any other additions, deletions, comments on the minutes? Seeing none, you appear ready to vote on the minutes as Peter has amended them. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hear none. Abstentions? Hear none, see none. The minutes are, as amended, are approved unanimously. Next item is item 2316, amending the Darien zoning regulations, Appendix B, on land use. And speaking on behalf of PZ&H, Amy Zebedakis.
Hi, good evening. Amy Zebedakis, District 5, Chair of the RTM Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee. I move Resolution 2316, consideration and action on authorizing increases in land use application and zoning permit fees. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Without objection, I'll waive reading the resolution. On May 25th, the Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee held our regular meeting with 10 members of our 16-person committee present, representing a quorum. We reviewed the memo prepared by Jeremy Ginsburg, Director of Land Use, which has been provided to all of the members of the RTM as part of their packet. As you may recall, on May 20th, 2023, this body approved increases to the land use application and zoning permit fees charged by the land use departments. The text of the memo that was circulated at that time was correct and is the same as the current request. However, there was a chart attached to the request last time, which was part of our approval, that used the wrong starting numbers for calculating the new fees. I.e. the starting numbers that were used were not actually the starting numbers that were approved by this body in 2019, which is the last time we discussed the land use fees. So if you're looking at your memo, what we approved is written in italics on the memo, but what we should have been approving is what's written in bold. So we're being asked today to correct this error and approve the figures as they're listed in bold on Mr. Ginsburg's memo. Our committee reviewed the documents and understood that explanation and voted unanimously in favor of the corrected proposal to increase the fees and recommends the same to the full RTM, and our basis being the same as we approved it last time. This is just really a mathematical correction. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Speaking on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis, Chair.
I'm Jack Davis, District 3, Chair of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee. Thank you, Amy, for that report. I will not repeat the details. The committee met in conjunction with the RTM PZ&H Committee, also Public Works was there, on May 27th. The committee understands the changes proposed and unanimously approved this resolution and recommends the same to the full RTM. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any other committees? Okay. Public officials? Members of the RTM?
So I'm just going to ask a point of order of just, apparently the speakers are not working. If the speakers, if the person speaking could speak a little louder, it would be helpful to the audience.
Okay, great, thanks. I thought we had a moment there, all right.
Very hard to hear around here in this section.
You can hear me okay? Más o menos, okay. Try and...
The microphone, the speakers are not working.
Hello? That better? Yeah. Oh, okay. Good. Any comments from the body? Okay. I didn't, I'm sorry, I can't hear that.
There was a discussion of a change. Could you just repeat that? Or could Amy maybe just stand up and repeat that really quickly? Again, it wasn't sort of hard to hear.
I think the numbers are correct. Go ahead, yeah.
All right. Can you hear me a little better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the change is, if you're looking at Mr. Ginsburg's memo, the rationale for the change is identical and is what we approved. The starting number that he used was not the 2019 numbers. So if you're looking at that memo, there's a whole chart in the back. There's the italics numbers are what we approved. The bold numbers are what we should have approved. I can go through them all if you want, but it's a pretty lengthy list. Okay.
Other comments from the body? Okay, electors of the town? See none? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. No votes? And abstentions? Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda, 2317, acceptance of a gift of statues, $425,000 from the Steinkraus family. Speaking on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis.
Hello? I want to make sure you can hear me. Perfect. As I said before, I'm not usually somebody who they tell me to speak up. I'm Jack Davis, District 3, Chair of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee. I move Resolution 23-17, Darien authorizing the acceptance of 2 sculptures from the Steinkraus family to the town of Darien on Great Island, having a value of $425,000. Do I have a second? I said Mark Adeletta, first one I saw. Sorry, Jim. If there's no objections, I waive the reading of the resolution. At our last RTM meeting, I mentioned that the RTM would only consider gifts valued greater than $12,500. Last meeting was the last one we had at $10,000. Well, the future's now. The Steinkraus family generously gifted the town 2 marble sculptures, valued more than the current limit, significantly more. The sculptures are near the main house on the gardens, and they're really outstanding. The town has a fine arts insurance rider, and upon acceptance, these two beautiful sculptures will be added to that rider. The committee met on May 31st and unanimously approved acceptance of these two pieces of fine art and recommends the same to the full RTM. The committee would also like to thank the Stein-Krause family for their generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any other committees wish to report on this item? Okay. Town officials, comments? Members of the body, comments? Electors of the town? I see none. Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Opposed, please. Abstentions. Results of item 2316, 73 in favor, no opposed, 1 abstention. In voting on these leases, I'm going to adopt the following. We'll have the various committees get up and report on all of the leases at once. And then, because we have to vote on each lease separately. So rather than have committee get up and speak after each lease, we will be here late in the evening. Going to avoid that. So first we'll have the committees come up, give their reports, and then PZ&H will move each one of the leases for the vote. Okay? So, leading off for Planning, Zoning, and Housing, Amy Zavatakis. You have to move it. Yeah,
I do
well,
have to
yeah,
move it.
No, you'll move them each separately, right.
But move them
You
all
can
separately
give
after I
your
report.
and
Okay.
then move the first item.
Okay. Sorry, just want to make sure I do this all right. Amy Zavatakis, District 5, Chair of Planning, Zoning, and Housing. So before moving any of the resolutions regarding the residential leases, we'll give all of our reports, and then I'll move each one separately. And also because we have all been discussing all of these as a group, and the resolutions themselves are all identical except for the various leases being discussed. So there are 7 properties on Great Island that are currently have tenants inside them. Of these, 6 are residential leases, and one of the residential leases, 18 Great Island, was extended prior to the closing of the purchase by the town. Town council has informed us that this lease, therefore, does not need to be voted on by the RTM. So tonight, we have the 5 other residential leases. And of course, the 7th lease is the stable lease, which has been withdrawn from tonight's agenda. So the 5 residential lease properties are 24 Great Island, referred to as the Dolphin House, with a monthly rent of $4,800. 40 Great Island, referred to as the White House, with a monthly rent of $7,500. 46A Great Island, one of the 2 stable apartments, with a monthly rent of $5,500. 46B Great Island, the other stable apartment, with a monthly rent of $2,000. And 49 Great Island, the Greenhouse, with a monthly rent of $5,500. All of these properties are currently occupied by the proposed tenants. So the same people that would be signing these leases are already in the properties and were prior to the purchase. All of these leases have been approved by the Board of Selectmen. We've been told by Town Council that these leases predominantly match the leases that the tenants had with the prior owner. However, none of the leases with the town have been approved by the tenants as of yet. The main difference that has been explained to us from the prior leases is that the leases with the town will include the mutual right to cancel the leases on 3 months' notice, and also include certain environmental waivers that the tenants will be giving to the town. The Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee discussed these leases at our regular meeting on May 25th, 2023, with 10 members of our 16-person committee present. The committee voted unanimously in favor of each of the residential leases and recommends the same to the full RTM.
You might as well stay up here.
Okay.
Next, reporting on behalf of Public Works, Mark Adaletta.
Good evening, Mark Adaletta. Can you hear me? Mark Adaletta, Chair of Public Works to the RTM. At a regular session, the Public Works Committee held May 25th with 8 of 14 members present. The Public Works Committee considered and voted unanimously to recommend all 5 of these leases to the RTM. Background: the Public Works Committee, the Planning and Zoning Committee, and the Finance and Budget Committee held a joint session that evening to review several leases, as Amy's already described. I'll skip that part. In looking at these leases, from a Public Works perspective, the Public Works Committee noted several key aspects. As Amy noted, the one-year term, the leases can be terminated in 90-day notice. It clearly defines when and how much rent is to be paid. There is a security deposit supporting various obligations under the lease, and I'll get into what those obligations are related to Public Works in a moment. There is a definition of dwelling that includes and excludes some of the guidelines on who can and can't use it. There is a section that makes clear which utilities and services are the responsibility of the tenant and which are the responsibility of the landlord and any incremental charges associated with those. There is also a care section that speaks to the condition the tenant is expected to maintain the premises. Another section spells out the respective responsibility for repairs among the parties and dollar thresholds. Liability and personal property insurance is required. An alteration section spells out limitations on what the tenant can and cannot do to the premises, and then of course there's the environment remediation statement that Amy already mentioned. In the discussion, there was a fair amount of discussion supportive of having a document in place for each residence that makes clear the obligations the tenant with regard to operating and maintaining these premises relative to what the town is responsible for. The terms in this regard were noted as appearing to be reasonable and customary. These comments were related to the roles and responsibilities of the parties related to the property, not necessarily the rent being paid itself. Overall, the committee felt satisfied with the scope of these residence leases. It was also mentioned that these one-year leases with a 90-day out don't necessarily appear to bind the town to any future use or direction for Great Island down the road. It was viewed as maintaining the status quo while defining certain obligations, while the GIAC, the Great Island Advisory Committee, and the Board of Selectmen formulate a long-term strategy. It was noted that the Department of Public Works in the interim is stepping in to maintain the existing common spaces, roads, for example, not currently leased and maintained by others. The expectation of the committee is that if these leases change in any material way, that they'd come back before this body. The Public Works Committee asks that you vote yes and ratify these 5 leases. Again, this item passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Seth.
Speaking on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis. After Jack, I'll ask if there are any other committees. I'll go through that. And then we'll be ready to start. Amy Zebedee will then move each one, and we'll vote on each one.
I'm Jack Davis, District 3, Chair of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee. I'll try not to repeat some of the information provided by Amy and Mark, but I had already planned to use this resolution, the first one, to cover some other areas. Tonight, the RTM will be addressing 5 leases for the dwellings. As mentioned, there's a 6th lease, which is 18 Great Island, that was extended prior to the town's purchase. That lease runs April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024 at a $9,000 per month rate, or $81,000 for the fiscal year 2024. Again, we looked at solely the fiscal year 2024 and what the revenue would be. The total for all leases that we will review tonight, including 18 Great Island, but not the stable itself, will generate $372,000 for fiscal year 24 for the town. And remember, the special reserve we have is $400,200, which, when the lease for the stable comes back, we will far exceed that amount. The other aspect reviewed by the Finance and Budget Committee was the liability insurance required in each of those leases. That amount is $5 million for each lease that we will review tonight. If I run through the numbers, I'm going to give you some totals. So for 23, 1840 Great Island, all the leases, with the exception that I mentioned before, which was the one already done, run June 15th, 2023 through June 15th, 2024. So it's really, for fiscal 24, an 11.5 month of leases coming in there. So I'm just going to run through the total numbers. For 24 Great Island, which is 2319, as mentioned, it's $4,800 and $55,200 for the annual rent. For 40 Great Island, which is 2318, it's $7,500 or $86,250 for the annual rent. For 46A Great Island, which is 2320, it's $5,500 or $63,250, which is for the annual fiscal 24 rent. For 46B Great Island, it's $2,000 a month or $23,000 for the full year. And for 49 Great Island, it's $5,500 or $63,250, and that's 2322. The F&B committee met on 2 special meetings, which was the May 5th, which was jointly with PZ&H and Public Works, and a separate meeting on May 31st, and voted unanimously with 1 abstention to approve all of the leases and recommends the same to the full RTM. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any other committees which wish to report on these leases? Okay. Any remarks from town officials? Any remarks from the body? Okay, and any remarks from electors of the town? Hearing none, we're ready to start to vote on these leases. Primary, PZ&H, Amy Zebedee.
Thank you. All right. I move Resolution 2318, which is the consideration and action on the approval of the lease for 40 Great Island, the White House. Do I have a second? Thank you. Without objection, I'll waive reading.
No, I don't think that'd be good. Yeah, go ahead. Yep, right. Waive the reading.
Okay, I waived. Okay. Without objection.
Great, there we go. Stay here. All right, any further comments? Ready to vote? Whoops, excuse me. Yes, because we can't get it on the recording.
Okay, sorry. Just a quick question. How are they going to make sure the public, once it's open to the public, is not going to trespass on these properties?
Yeah, I need you
Oh,
to
Deirdre
get-
McGovern, District 1.
Okay, yeah.
The leases are for the residences only. All of the grounds are considered common areas and are open to, they're used to be used in conjunction with anyone else who has a right to use the common area. So unless we're concerned about the public actually going into anyone's residences, we should be okay.
Okay.
Any other comments from the body? Okay. Ready to vote? All in favor, please rise. Nice catch though on the reading. I'd forgotten that. That's, yeah.
That's I have my spiel from Amy Barsanti.
The results on 2317, 73 in favor, none against, one abstention.
Did you say
Go ahead. Next item on the agenda.
we're not going to, I guess we're not doing objections or abstentions on,
Oh, yeah, I should, yeah. Any, no votes, please? Abstentions? I see none.
all right. Next, I move Resolution 2319, consideration and action on the approval of the lease for 24 Great Island. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Without objection, I'll waive reading. All right.
Great. All right, any further comments? Hearing none. Ready to vote?
Seth?
Yes? Oh, yes, Jim.
Pays to have access to the microphone. Apropos of actually all of these particular leases, but maybe you could speak to this one in particular, but all of them, how was the amount set for the rent, and is the rent comparable to fair market value for comparable properties? Thank you. Jim Cameron, District 4.
The information that we were given by the Board of Selectmen and by Town Council is that the rental amounts match what these tenants are paying currently. To my knowledge, there was not any sort of comparable rental analysis done. Again, the idea, as I believe Mark may have been the one who mentioned, the idea was to maintain status quo. These are one-year leases with 90-day rights of termination. Thank you.
Other questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Results on 2318, 73 in favor, no votes, one abstention. No votes, please. Abstentions? I see none. They'll get this done by the time.
Well, I can't see anybody over Mac. He's too tall. All right. I move Resolution 2320, consideration and action on the approval of the residential lease for 46A Great Island. Can I have a second? Second. Thank you. Without objection, I'll waive reading of the resolution.
Great. Further comments? Just asking. All right. Hear none, see none. Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Going to keep those district chairs moving tonight, yes. No votes, please. And abstentions. See none.
Huh? Yeah. I move Resolution 2321, consideration and action on the approval of the residential lease for 46B Great Island. Do I have a second? Thank you. Without objection, I'll waive reading of the resolution.
Okay, any comments further? Hearing none. We're ready to vote. All those in favor, please rise. No votes, please. Abstentions?
You still all there? How do you still attend? Still 13?
All right. And finally, I move Resolution 2322, consideration and action on the approval of the lease for 49 Great Island. Do I have a second? Erica. Without objection, I'll waive reading of the resolution. All right.
Any further comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please rise. Opposed, please? Abstentions? Okay. Please wait until we get all the votes counted. Thank you, Amy.
I'll take that. You got to do something. Yeah, I know, right? Freeloader there.
If someone's looking for their keys to drive home tonight, we have the keys are on the table up here. Results of the voting, 2319, 73 in favor, no noes, 1 abstention. Item 23-20, 73 in favor, no noes, 1 abstention. Item 2321, 73 in favor, no noes, 1 abstention. Item 23-22, 73 in favor, no noes, 1 abstention. I'll accept a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please rise.